Hello friends, this video on respiration in plants part 3 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So let us now define it. What is cellular respiration in plants? Why do we call it as cellular respiration? Because this process of respiration takes place inside each and every cell inside the plant. So inside every cell, the process of respiration is taking place. Because please try to understand this. When photosynthesis takes place, food is prepared only in the green parts of the plant. And then the food is transported through phloem to all other different parts of the plant. So basically that food reaches each and every cell of the plant. Now each and every cell of the plant needs to convert that food, they need to convert that glucose into energy in the form of ATP. So respiration has to take place inside each and every cell. That is why it is called cellular respiration. So it is the breakdown of food to release energy in cells, because the cells at the end of the day, it is the cell which needs energy to perform all the cellular activities. So breakdown of food to release energy in cells. So when I say food is nothing but glucose. And when I say to release energy, this energy is released in the form of ATP molecules. So now the question is how this breakdown of food takes place, how the food is broken down. Now when I say breakdown of food, what actually happens is the food molecules are oxidized. So it is oxidation of glucose, because food molecule is nothing but glucose. So oxidation of the food molecules takes place to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. So these are the products of the process of respiration. So all these things are produced: carbon dioxide, water and energy. Now this energy is trapped in the form of ATP molecules, which can be utilized by the cell as and when required. Right? So that is the concept of cellular respiration. So whatever food we are eating, that is in the form of, even if it is stored in the form of starch, that starch gets converted into the simplest form, that is the monosaccharide, that is glucose. So glucose will be oxidized to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. And this energy is important. This energy is going to be stored as ATP molecules. Correct? So now in this lesson, we are going to talk about this particular process of respiration. Now in plants, let me try to explain you the background properly before we actually start with the equations of respiration. Now in plants, we all know that they prepare food by photosynthesis. Right? So what happens during the process of photosynthesis? During the process of photosynthesis, they take in carbon dioxide, because they need carbon dioxide as an input to produce glucose. They take in carbon dioxide and then they prepare food in the form of glucose. Correct? Now this glucose which is prepared will now be oxidized as a part of respiration. So when the glucose is oxidized, this process of oxidation of glucose is known as respiration. So during the process of respiration, what will happen? Glucose will be oxidized to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. So you see, during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide was taken in, whereas during respiration, carbon dioxide is given out. Also, as a result of respiration, a lot of energy is produced, which is stored in the form of ATP molecules. Now, utilizing these energy, the plants will perform all the metabolic activities, all the processes like reproduction, movement, transport. Even for photosynthesis also it needs a lot of energy. So the plants will utilize all these energy, the plants will grow, and again these plants will perform the process of photosynthesis. So please try to understand the role of photosynthesis and respiration in the life of a plant, and just try to see how photosynthesis and respiration, they complement each other. So whatever is the input in photosynthesis is the output in respiration and vice versa. So carbon dioxide was an input in photosynthesis, whereas carbon dioxide is a product in respiration. So whatever carbon dioxide is produced as a result of respiration, the same carbon dioxide can be utilized during photosynthesis. Right? Okay, so you got an idea about what is the role of respiration in the life of a plant. Okay, so now let us talk about the cellular respiration as a process. So we are now going to look about only the process of cellular respiration, how that conversion of glucose into energy is taking place. So during this process, respiratory substrates are oxidized. So there you got a new term. Till now I was telling the food is oxidized, food molecules. So basically respiratory substrates is a term for those food molecules. So what are respiratory substrates? These are the compounds which are oxidized to release energy during respiration. Can you give me an example of a respiratory substrate? What kind of compounds am I talking about? Just now I told you, right? The food molecules. And what is that food? For example, in case of plants, the food is prepared in the form of glucose. And what is glucose? That is a carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are an example of respiratory substrates. Now sometimes there are other respiratory substrates also, for example proteins, fats, they can also be oxidized to produce some energy. Now again it varies, the amount of energy that will be produced that might vary from one respiratory substrate to another, but these are all examples of the respiratory substrates. So you talk about proteins, you talk about glucose, you talk about the fatty acids. They are all examples of respiratory substrates. So this is the name given to the compounds. So now the question is, what happens during oxidation? So what is that special thing which is happening during oxidation because of which so much of energy can be released? Now, very simple. The concept is very simple. When you talk about these substrates, whether you talk about carbohydrates or you talk about proteins or you talk about fats, they are all complex structures, right? So if you look at the structure of this protein or this fatty acids or this carbohydrate, none of them are very simple, right? They are all complex structures involving a lot of bonds. So many bonds are there. And you know, breaking of a bond always releases energy. And for forming a bond, you need to provide energy. So that is a concept. Breaking a bond will release energy, whereas to form a bond, that is forming a bond, will utilize energy. So this is a simple concept which we all know. So here when we are talking about these complex respiratory substrates involving multiple bonds, now when these bonds break, what will happen, you think? Lot of energy will be released. And this is the energy which will be utilized to synthesize ATP. So when we talk about the process of oxidation during respiration, we'll see that as the process of oxidation takes place, more and more bonds are broken. And when bonds are broken, a lot of energy is released. And those energies are utilized for synthesizing ATP. And then ATP molecules are kept inside the plant. Now, this process of bond breaking is not a single step process. It is not that you take a molecule of glucose and then you oxidize it completely in one step and all the bonds are broken and a lot of energy is released. That is not how it happens. Now, this breaking of bond takes place over a number of steps. So the process of respiration is a multi-step process. Now, there are reasons why it is a multi-step process. It could have been a single-step process. But in that case, when a lot of energy will be released in just one step, there are chances that a good portion of the energy might get wasted in the form of heat. But when it is getting released in small amounts in multiple steps, then it can be utilized in a better way. So the energy released in each step can be utilized or can be coupled with the synthesis of ATP. So that is why cellular respiration is a multi-step process. So we will understand this process step by step. So now we got to know that okay, a lot of energy is going to get produced. Now the question is, how does this energy help? Where exactly this energy helps in case of a plant or an animal? So now the question is, how is this energy going to help plants and animals? So where all is this energy going to get used up? So when you talk about the animals, it is going to be used up for all the basic life activities, whether you talk about the process of digestion, you talk about the functioning of the heart. Even heart needs some energy to do its job, to act as a pump. It needs some energy. It will be required by the brain performs such a critical function in our body. So almost 20% of this energy will be utilized by the brain. Some around 7 to 8% of it will be utilized by the heart. Again, the other basic processes, for example digestion, excretion, all those things will also need some energy. So not only the basic life activities, also the physical activities which we perform, the additional physical activities I mean. So for that also we need energy. So all these energy necessities will be fulfilled by this energy which is produced as a result of respiration. Now if you talk about plants, again plants also have so many basic life activities like photosynthesis, respiration, the cellular activities at the cellular level where mitochondria, chloroplast and all other cell organelles are doing their own job, the nucleus. So they also need energy for all these purposes. So this is where, so these are the so many aspects in plants where they need energy. So this is where the energy which was released during the process of respiration is utilized in plants. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.